The Huntington-USC Institute on California in the West is a center for scholarly investigation of the history and culture of California and the American West. And every school year, they invite a selection of the area's high school juniors to spend one Saturday a month exploring the infrastructure of Los Angeles, with ICW's director William Deverell as their guide. It's called the Los Angeles Service Academy, or LASA for short.
So LASA is directed absolutely and only at high school juniors to help them understand the metropolis in which they live. So for instance, water. What do we do with the absence of fresh water, and what do we do with our proximity to salt water? And those are issues that young people have to know about because they're going to be decision makers. The Huntington resources that we pulled were the Huntington's rich photo archives of sites in and alongside the LA River when it's being paved, engineering reports that exist here at the Huntington about the decision to pave it. There's fiscal documents, there's bonding vehicles or tools that we can find. The Huntington's rich in this because, of course, the upbuilding of Los Angeles is timed not just coincidentally, but intricately with the paving of the LA River. They are seen as two halves of a whole from the early 20th century forward, and the Huntington is the greatest archive for the history of the upbuilding of Southern California. So the river is going to be all over this collection. This is an abbreviated college lecture. So you're in college now for the next half an hour. Okay?
No pros, that would be yay!
Yeah. How many of you are entering the essay contest? The LA River Complex will employ people your age right out of college soon. It does now. So think about it. If today lights you up, you could make the first part of your career in and around the LA River. Now we have to go, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So big plan.
We could do a very high-level academic conference. We'd utilize Huntington resources for the history of that. We utilize Huntington scholars to help us think through that. We'd utilize Huntington ephemeral and other kinds of sources to illustrate that history. We just take that body of knowledge and we refract it through LASA so that the 16-year-olds can get every bit as good and current knowledge as any academic audience.
So when the Spanish came here, what they did is they dammed the river, and then they took the river from the water from the river and ran it through a series of canals down to the pueblo, and that was their water supply. And we have a remnant of that here, right here in the park.
But just about every important thing that happened in the first 100 years of the history of this pueblo happened within eyesight of where we're standing right now. The first cemetery, the first hospital, just about the first everything, because life was between the river and the pueblo.
The way to get excited about this is just to plunge in. Water touches every aspect of life and culture in Southern California. So, and the kids can see that. You take them to the LA River and you talk about this is a river that's going to change remarkably in the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, your lifetime.
All right, you ready? Everybody say Frogtown. Frogtown. Okay, now do something silly, go.
A month later, LASA's next trip took them to the port of Los Angeles, where they traced the origins of the port, as well as visited a bridge under construction that will increase the clearance for ships so that larger vessels can enter the harbor, allowing the port to better compete in the global economy.
So the harbor visit for the LASA kids is designed to introduce them to something that they probably have even less familiarity with than the Los Angeles River. In other words, the harbor is quite a ways away. And the reason it's quite a ways away is obvious. It's at the coast, but it's quite a ways away because Los Angeles was founded near the river, or at least near a certain bend in the river, inland. But the harbor is not only adjacent to the terminus of the LA River, so that's important for them to recognize the geography of riparian and ocean systems, but the harbor's future is as palpable and tangible and expensive, intricate, and complicated as the LA Rivers.
This side right here, this is the main. And we're going to get out and walk on this little pier here.
It is called City Dock Number 1. It's the city of Los Angeles' first municipal pier that they built in the harbor. So I mentioned in 1909, the city of LA, way 20 miles north of us, really wanted to get control of the harbor, so they consolidated with San Pedro and Wilmington. And it was 1909. They knew the Panama Canal was under construction, and they're like, oh my God, we have to get ready.
The harbor's where it is because of, not because there exists a natural harbor off the coast of Southern California. There doesn't. Not a very good one, not a very deep one. It's there because of the result of a big David and Goliath political and economic tug of war of the late 19th century that is peppered with individuals whose lives the Huntington Library speaks to or is built around commemoratively or otherwise. And the resources here for investigating that are like none other. So we can draw that in there as well and explain really the fundamental question is, why is the harbor in the San Pedro Wilmington complex and not where others wanted it to be in 1895, Santa Monica? I constantly grapple in my classes and my teaching with a perception, let's say in the larger basin of Los Angeles, that water or the lack of water is just a given, that there are precipitation patterns, there are rivers or absence of rivers, gravity does what it does to water, and the human interaction is kind of secondary. And my job in that sense is to say that's not true.
As we come down the approach here, the orange piece of equipment in the air is what I was telling you about. That's the MSS. That's the movable scaffolding system. So those brackets that look like wings coming off of the columns are only temporarily located there to support the weight of the machine, and then they leapfrog those from column to column, which allows the machine to launch itself. So this entire bridge that you're looking at was built using that machine, and not a single piece of equipment ever touched the ground. It was all just resting on the columns.
So we've happened this year to couple our fresh and saltwater investigations in back-to-back monthly LASA programs. That wasn't exactly by design, that was somewhat happenstance, but it makes perfect sense because now we're able to say to them, once we finish that water unit, if you will, you've now been given some tools and some background and some knowledge. You will not forget this, and you will, many of you, rise to positions of engagement, if not professional engagement, with these issues. It would be a professorial dream come true for me with this program. And I can speak for my colleagues, Elizabeth and Taryn as well. If in 5, 10, or 15, 20 years, 30 years from now, when I'm in my convalescent home reading novels, if one of these LASA kids calls me up and says, I've just been named the Port of Los Angeles director, or I've just been named head of the Los Angeles River mid-21st century revitalization project, that would be awesome.